They called Eve House the ultimate fantasy, a palace of glass where nothing can hide. Architect Jonathan Arkay swore it would revolutionize how the world thinks about beauty, intimacy, and control. But inside these transparent walls, no secret stays hidden for long. Mia, his companion and living art piece, must remain naked at all times. On display for Jonathan's gaze and the world's curiosity, each layer of glass becomes less protection and more cage until the watcher is the one most exposed. When Mia begins to turn Jonathan's obsessions against him, a web of seduction, betrayal, and survival unfurls. So if you think you've heard it all, you haven't. Hit follow on your favorite platform and leave us a comment, because the next story might just change the way you see everything. Don't miss a single twisted turn. Chapter 1. Set Up. The Glass Kingdom. Dawn surged through floor-to-ceiling windows, glinting off every surface, making shadows dance across pristine glass. Mia always woke before Jonathan, shivering from the chill that clung to glass when the sun was new. No curtains, no doors to close, she moved across the house as if in a museum. Her own body, the main exhibit. Jonathan watched from the balcony, coffee in hand, barefoot in his silk pajamas. "You're more beautiful every day you let yourself be seen," he whispered, his voice echoing through the open spaces. Mia felt the invisible eyes, the staff's polite averted faces, the tiny red specks near the ceiling that she now recognized as cameras, always whirring, always recording. Breakfast glimmered under a domed glass atrium. Jonathan's friends arrived, men in expensive suits, women glittering, always hungry for spectacle. Mia remained silent but poised. She nodded, smiled, crossed and uncrossed her legs as instructed. Never awkward, never covered. Jonathan called her the finishing touch of his greatest work, but Mia heard a plea for validation hidden in every praise. When the staff cleared the table, Mia noticed how their glances slid away from her, a practiced show of deference. She wondered what stories they told about her in the staff wing, or if she was simply another element of the house, as polished and present as the custom architecture. As dusk fell, Jonathan led a handful of guests through Eve House's echoing halls. "Every line exposes, every window is an invitation," he boasted. Mia followed, silent, unadorned, fighting the urge to shield herself. She memorized the route, the quirks in the floor, which camera blinked out during power surges. By nightfall, Jonathan drew her into his arms by the glass wall overlooking the ocean. "Every angle of you is perfect. You have nothing to hide." But Mia already knew better. She was hiding everything she had left. Chapter 2. Foreshadow. The Rules of the Game. Routine cemented itself in invisible mortar. Morning jog in the East Gallery, transparent yoga on the terrace, meals choreographed with Jonathan's eye for composition. He staged her life as if every moment was part of an art film, unscripted, brilliant, but utterly without privacy. Some days Mia attempted small rebellions, lingering a moment in the linen closet, curling up for a nap behind the spiral staircase. Jonathan always found her. "There are no mistakes here, only choices," he said once, voice soft, but warning clear. A party arrived, more lavish than the last. Guests trailed fingerprints on glass and swallowed their envy behind manufactured smiles. Among them was Ava Traeger, a woman in her 40s, poised, watchful, owner of as many secrets as investments. Ava watched Mia quietly all evening, her gaze different from the others. During a brief moment in the gallery, she murmured, "Not everything here is as transparent as it looks." Mia felt a charge pass between them, a signal that someone else noticed the cracks. That night, under heavy rain, Mia draped herself on a daybed, watching droplets streak down glass. Jonathan moved from room to room, checking cameras, reviewing footage. The sense of being watched, not cared for, pressed in on Mia. She began to pay closer attention to the house itself, the dead corners behind sculpture pedestals, the security panel left open in Jonathan's office, the backup generator that always thudded twice before fully engaging during storms. For the first time, she set a longer-term goal than just surviving. She would learn the house as well as Jonathan did. She would find what he feared hiding most behind all his rules. Chapter 3. Shift. Cracks in the reflection. Eve House, with its infinite panes and mirrored floors, became an extension of Jonathan's ego, a temple where he could stage every detail of Mia's existence. But beneath the rigid schedule and gleaming surfaces, something began to fracture. It started subtly. A misplaced glass, a curtain left untied by trembling staff, Mia's silent hesitations in doorways she was meant to move through without thought. Jonathan announced a new commission, another glass residence, this one for a mysterious investor flown in from the East Coast. The event was lavish, and Jonathan expected perfection. He rehearsed Mia's path through the house, orchestrating even her smallest gestures for the benefit of the visiting elite. The guests filtered in, their designer shoes clicking on stone, their eyes darting between Jonathan's monologue and Mia's silent, naked presence. Their curiosity was insatiable, veiled in polite curiosity. But one pair of eyes watched differently. Ava Traeger, the poised client from the previous gathering, returned, this time with a tighter smile and a calculating gaze. As champagne flowed, Mia found herself beside Ava near the spiral glass sculpture. "There are angles he hasn't planned for," Ava whispered, her voice low beneath the hum of conversation. Mia's pulse raced at the suggestion, her mind catching onto each veiled meaning beneath Ava's words. Jonathan interrupted, sweeping between them. He wrapped an arm around Mia's shoulders, a gesture both possessive and fraught with unease. "We build trust here," he told Ava, "and trust is only possible with total honesty." Ava's eyebrow flicked. Mia caught the signal and stored it away. That night, as the house quieted, Mia traced Ava's parting glance in her mind, wondering what it might mean. Her eyes drifted across the glass walls. For a moment, her reflection seemed split, one face looking back at her timidly, the other holding hard, sharp hope. She began inventing new routines, testing the boundaries of Jonathan's control, lingering in blind spots, moving silently through servant corridors, observing the rhythm of power outages that left certain security devices flickering or dead. Each discovery tightened her nerves, but filled her with new resolve. One stormy evening, Jonathan's tension was palpable. He snapped at staff, obsessed over camera feeds, and brooded over business calls. When a thunderclap killed the lights for a heartbeat, Mia realized just how fragile his grip truly was. Alone in the darkened atrium, Mia looked out over the wild ocean. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine not just escape, but victory. The house was no longer just Jonathan's masterpiece, it was a labyrinth, and she was learning its secret exits. By dawn, resolve replaced fear. Every crack in Jonathan's system was a possible weapon. And Ava's warning, a lifeline dropped from one cage to another, became the first piece of the plan Mia would build to set herself free. Chapter 4. Pressure Point. Perfect woman. Perfect cage. Daylight breaks hard and bright, turning the endless shelves, the transparent counters, the impossibly clean floors into glowing edges. Heat builds throughout the glass house, but Mia only shivers. Her skin knows exposure before her mind has even registered it. Jonathan's gaze, the camera's expectation, her own practiced movements rehearsed for an invisible audience. In Eve House, she no longer remembers the concept of coincidence. Every moment is staged. Jonathan wakes and immediately begins to shape the day. He greets Mia in the kitchen, his voice smooth but rushed. "Today, more guests, more opportunities to impress. Smile for them," he says. "They don't get art like you every day." Mia wonders if he realizes how much he's talking to himself behind every word. Watching him, she's learned that his love is not affection, but arrangement. He orchestrates her routine for the morning, 20 laps through the sunlit gallery, legs stretched for the gaze of the ocean, and his camera, she notices, now upgraded for even sharper clarity. Silent breakfast, standing at the curved window, staged pauses in the reading nook, books splayed on her knees. The staff, now less visible, more careful in their glances, move briskly, barely bothering to look her way, save for a nervous crinkle around their eyes. Jonathan's pressure reaches them too. By mid-morning, Jonathan is a bundle of impatience. Every detail matters. The color of Mia's lipstick, the precise spacing of her toes on the living room rug. Stillness communicates confidence, he instructs. Mia wonders, is it confidence or just stillness required from something displayed in a case? The question simmers, never spoken. Guests arrive by noon. They're an eclectic parade. An Emirati investor considering a new Arkay masterpiece, 2 tech moguls, a government official's wife. Today's centerpiece is an impromptu photo shoot. Jonathan hands Mia a stack of thin scarves, colored chiffon. Wear only these, he says. Let them move as you do. He clicks the remote, and music fills the room. The others settle into designer armchairs, sipping mimosas, watching the show. Mia closes her eyes as the fabric floats around her. For a moment, she imagines cool shade or a distant park, her feet in grass instead of burning glass. When she opens her eyes, she sees Ava Traeger slouched near the back, one ankle crossed over the other, arms folded. Her eyes meet Mia's and hold. There's a challenge in her look, a silent dare to see the house as it truly is. The pressure of the moment grows unbearable. Every move is studied, every gesture a statement in someone else's story. After the show, Jonathan beams, glancing around for approval. He gestures for Mia to join him at the glass dining table, crowded by the guests. He talks about his new commission. Blue glass floor to ceiling. The only way to really see yourself and others is in total exposure. The tech mogul laughs. And people pay for this? Jonathan grins, not realizing the irony bleeding into his voice with each word. Ava, for the first time, interjects. Exposure's just another form of control, don't you think? The others quiet down, surprised, but Jonathan's laugh is loud, rehearsed. Control? Exposure is freedom. The party drifts late. Mia, exhausted, escapes to the bathroom for a moment. A small mercy, though still walled half in glass. She sits, knees to chest, and breathes for the first time since morning. Is this relief or just a pause before another performance? Her skin tingles with a sense she can't name, the crackle in the air before a storm. Later, Jonathan finds her watching the rain hit the kitchen skylight. You're perfect today, he says, and for a flash, there's tenderness, a memory of the man who seduced her with visions of possibility, not rules. Mia holds his gaze, searching for any flicker of truth behind the compliment. She finds nothing but hunger and pride, his, not hers. At midnight, Mia stands at the edge of the glass-walled bedroom, the sea roaring beneath. She catalogues every camera, every sensor blink. She can feel the moment of breaking coming. She can almost taste the weakness beneath Jonathan's confidence. For the first time, resolve edges out fear. The cage, so carefully designed, is only as perfect as she allows it to be. She begins to drift into sleep with a whisper of a plan. She will become what the house and Jonathan require, until the moment their attention becomes her shield, and their rules, her ladder out. Chapter 5. Secret revealed, behind the glass. Night claims Eve House, in a hush broken only by the steady buzz of electricity. Mia lies awake, the glass ceiling above her glowing with rain and city light. Sleep is a memory. Her mind cranks with the rhythm of the house, its whirring cameras and Jonathan's routines. She's learned the pattern. When he wakes, when he paces, when the staff disappear, like ghosts into maintenance corridors. And on this night, with Jonathan entombed in his office, she sees her chance. Padding silently through the main gallery, Mia presses a palm against the wall's barely perceptible seam, a detail only hours of surveillance revealed. She remembers Jonathan's boast. No panel is visible if the line is pure, but his pride missed what close scrutiny finds. With a slow exhale, she slides the section upward, revealing a cavity. Inside, a safe, a glassy drive, a lined folder. It's not locked. Mia feels a jolt, a mixture of disdain and invitation. Jonathan never thought anyone would dare. The drive's metal is cold, humming with encrypted secrets. Mia slips it into the hem of a robe, then closes the wall. Her nerves spark as she hurries past the main security nook, heart pounding like hail on glass. Every step is a calculation, every pause a risk. In the guest wing, she finds a staff computer left on to update security protocols. She's watched them before, learned the access codes. 6 digits that correspond to Jonathan's birthday interlaced with a famous architect's. She enters the numbers and holds her breath. The system clicks open. The drive blinks, recognized. Files populate the screen. At first, it's architectural sketches. Eve House in hundreds of iterations. Plans for other masterpieces in Manhattan, Tokyo, Dubai. Mia clicks deeper. Blueprints for complete exposure environments. Dwellings commissioned not just for beauty, but for control. Documents labeled with dates and sums. Proposals for full-spectrum surveillance integration. She scrolls. A folder stands out. Subjects, archive. Mia swallows. Clicking inside, she finds videos, photographs, and transcripts, each marked with a woman's name, a location, and dates. There's a younger Ava, posed much as Mia is now, a hollow look in her eyes. Other women too, their details catalogued, annotated. One file is marked MUSE:final session. It's a video. Ava, sitting naked in a replica of Mia's current bedroom, Jonathan's voice off camera. He isn't harsh, he's coaxing, explaining boundaries, talking about empowerment through transparency. The video disturbs Mia more than the surveillance. The ease of Jonathan's words, his gentle condescension, the way he asks permission while holding none of the risk. Next, Mia finds emails, names blacked out, but context clear. Discussions of clients who requested more invasive modifications for the integrity of the experience. Payments made in cryptocurrency, shipping manifests for tinted glass, special fixtures, hidden failsafes. There's a code word that appears often. Chimera. Mia flags it, her instincts sharpening. Near the drive's end, she spots another folder. Blackout events. Clipped audio files, emergency codes, quick back and forths referencing sabotage, client scandals hushed up with NDAs and payouts. In one thread, Ava's name emerges again, not as muse, but as negotiator. Emails between her and Jonathan pivot from cordial to icy, the subject lines swapping from opportunities to damages, and finally, to termination, mutual interest. The fallout Mia sees was never about one relationship, but a pattern. A final scan reveals a document Mia didn't expect. Protocol for unruly subject. It outlines every method to tighten control. Limiting staff interaction, psychological tactics, adjustment of medication and lighting. The last line, chilling in its detachment. If escalation is required, containment zone protocols go into effect. Mia copies as much as she can onto a fresh drive, deleting digital traces as best as she knows how. It isn't perfect, she's no hacker, but the urgency fuels accuracy. Her hands sweat. She wipes the laptop, resets the screensaver, and tucks the drive into a niche under her vanity, where only she would search. Footsteps echo from the hall. Mia ducks into the shower, water running to mask her tremor. Jonathan's silhouette crosses the doorway. He doesn't notice her change in breath, only calls, "Don't stay up. Big day tomorrow." His voice is gentle, but it barely covers a tremor. Mia wonders, for whom is the lie worse now? After he leaves, she stands under cold water, heart hammering, mind racing. There is no more doubt now. Jonathan's creations are mausoleums for his obsessions. Every muse is a replacement, every promise an echo of power's slippery seduction. The archive, the digital ghosts, are proof. Wrapped in a towel, Mia gazes at her reflection in the glass. She's not simply on display. She's become the unseen thief of Jonathan's confidence, the quiet archivist of his moral collapse. As she drifts off in bed, the folder labeled Chimera invades her thoughts. Mia senses a code embedded not just in files, but perhaps in the architecture itself. Secret triggers, panic responses. She'll need to be careful, learn which pressure points might shatter, not just her cage, but the whole apparatus Jonathan built. Morning will bring the pressure of appearances. But as the first rays break over the ocean, Mia now knows she isn't the only one who's ever tried to fight back. She's part of a lineage, one that, if she's clever, could finally end with her escape. Or with Jonathan's ruin. Her resolve steeled, evidence in hand, Mia prepares for the next act in this house of glass, no longer just a captive, but a woman armed with every secret the light refuses to hide. Chapter 6. Fallout, Exposure. Sunrise seems to arrive too quickly, slicing into Mia's uneasy sleep. The night clings to her skin. The bite of cold water, the images flickering behind her eyes, Ava's resigned gaze in the videos, Jonathan's soft menace, the file labeled Chimera. By dawn, she's already alert, heart ticking with the new urgency of one who's seen too much. She slips through her morning routine with deliberate calm. Jonathan is cheerful, borderline performative, rattling off the day's schedule, but there's a stiffness beneath his charm. His glances linger longer on her face, searching for a shift in mood, a slip of defiance. Mia matches every request with mechanical grace, coffee measured, steps elegant, lips in a neutral line. When Jonathan disappears for a call, Mia checks the drive's hiding place, still there. She exhales, then tightens the towel around her. Every surface in the house feels electrified now, no longer a blank glare, but a set of tripwires. Her every movement is a test. Through lunch and into afternoon, the pressure grows. Jonathan's business meeting has run overtime. She hears his raised voice through the glass doors. "No, I need total control. If you can't guarantee that, we'll find someone who can." Staff move quietly, as if bracing for bad weather. No one meets her eye. That evening, as golden light slants across the lounge, Ava Traeger returns. She arrives alone, without fanfare, carrying a slim portfolio and the subtle edge of calculation. Jonathan invites her in, forcing warmth, promising a meal to rekindle the partnership. But Ava's eyes find Mia first. There's recognition in her gaze, but this time it carries a warning. "Miss Traeger, Mia has blossomed in this space," Jonathan announces over dinner. "She is the essence of the house, don't you think?" The compliment rolls off Mia's body like raindrops on glass. Ava sips her wine and makes a non-committal sound. The meal is more performance than sustenance. Jonathan steers every topic, painting Eve House as a triumph, Mia as happy. Everything is perfectly under control. But Ava counters with pointed questions. How do your guests adapt to so much transparency? Is security ever a liability, not an asset? Jonathan parries, but his voice thins with every jab. After coffee, he and Ava move into the office for final negotiations. Mia remains at the table, hands fisted in her lap, eavesdropping as voices rise and fall. Some words slice through the glass. Oversight, exposure risk, subject safety. There's tension now. Ava, no longer a supplicant, but a rival with leverage. Mia slips away, heart quickening. She checks her hidden drive again, reassuring herself it's still there, then returns to her post as model and muse. Tension coils between her shoulder blades. The next stretch of hours is a kind of purgatory. Jonathan playing host, Ava negotiating terms, both trying to control the outcome. Mia, in the crossfire, senses that neither truly sees her any longer. She is now a zone of liability, not wonder. As night falls, Ava prepares to leave, her veneer cracking just enough for a brief private exchange in the foyer. Her words are soft, nearly masked by the storm outside. "If you find a way to break free, trust only yourself. He's more desperate than you know." Her fingers, cold, grip Mia's for an instant, more solidarity than comfort. Jonathan notices. "Is there a problem, Mia?" His eyes glint, a warning behind false benevolence. "No," she answers, the lie smoother than truth. Later they sit together in the glass-walled bedroom. Jonathan finds her reflection in the window and speaks to it. "You understand what we're building, don't you? We can't let anyone destroy something so perfect." Mia nods. Her mind sprints. She pictures the drive, the folders of every woman before her, the word chimera looping through her mind with chilling clarity. He watches her, as he always has. "You're quiet," he says. "I hope nothing's troubling you." Mia allows herself a brief, calculated smile, the kind she learned from watching Ava. "Just thinking how beautiful everything looks when the light shifts." Satisfaction flickers in his face, but by the time the house grows silent, and Mia lays in darkness, she knows what she's become. No longer the essence of Jonathan's fantasy, but his single greatest risk. Tomorrow, she decides, she'll start testing the system itself, pushing at weak points, mapping responses, gathering what allies she can. For now, she clings to the knowledge that secrets, once revealed, live on in every corner where the glass meets the night. Chapter 7. Retaliation. Lines of sight. The storm has not stopped. Wind hurls rain against the house in furious sheets, the glass quaking with every burst. Mia lies awake, heart thumping in time with the thunder. The events of the previous day, the drive, Ava's warning, Jonathan's shifting mood, play in her mind, each detail casting a longer shadow. She knows the ground is shifting under Jonathan too. Control, he'd always said, is about anticipation. Now it's her turn. She watches the monitors from the darkness of her bedroom, eyes tracing the cycle of lights. Red, green. A momentary flicker on camera 3, far end of the solarium. She experiments with her movements. Subtle at first. She leaves a chair slightly askew, swaps the order of books on the shelf, opens a closet a few inches wider than usual. In the morning, Jonathan's questions are casual, but his attention lingers over every anomaly. Did you sleepwalk again? His tone is light, but his eyes are sharp. Mia shakes her head and asks, is something wrong? It is a test, and she senses his discomfort. The tension is real, and Jonathan feels it in the small shifts he cannot control. Breakfast is silent. Jonathan scrolling through feeds and messages. Mia catches his reflection in her glass of water, a fractured, uncertain man. In the hours that follow, she wages a war of inches. She lags during her morning run, disrupts the sensors near the kitchen by passing through slowly, stands in a spot that's just barely out of frame for a security camera. Each act is minuscule, but together they accumulate. When Jonathan finds her by the window, lingering too long, he frowns. Are you bored? He asks, as if he's already dreading her answer. She shrugs. I was thinking about light and angles. Her words are true, but not in the way he expects. Ava calls in the afternoon. Jonathan's call is on speaker, and his tone is clipped, verging on hostile. I don't like delays, Ava. We can finish this project, or I'll find another investor. Ava's voice is smooth, reassuring. Patience, Jonathan. You know we don't rush things that matter. Mia listens in silence, catching the coded nuance in Ava's tone. She is buying Mia time. That evening, Jonathan receives a warning. A client has pulled out, citing security concerns. He blames Ava. The argument is loud, raw. Mia stands by the far wall, feigning invisibility and taking the opportunity to slip away, to the safer corners of the house, to check her drive, to scribble notes in her journal, detailing which sensors flicker during storms, which cameras lag when the kitchen lights are off. For the first time, she dares to open her window, letting the storm air in. The chill and chaotic wind feel almost welcome. Below, the sea rages, but inside Mia feels a strange sense of order settling in. She is no longer simply reacting, but choosing. She practices perfect stillness while Jonathan is near, moving only when he looks away. When she passes a staff member, she makes fleeting eye contact and tilts her chin just so. A small signal, repeated deliberately. If any of them notice, they give nothing away. On the fourth night, lightning knocks out one of the outer systems for a stretch of minutes. As the house plunges into darkness, Mia moves swift and silent, her path mapped in memory. In Jonathan's office, she checks the safe again, heart pounding, eyes tracking the time. She replaces a folder where it doesn't belong and leaves a coded note in a book Jonathan always claims to have read but never opens. When the lights roar back, all white glare, she's returned to bed, breathless but undetected. In the days that follow, her subtle subversions continue. A note written backwards on the fogged bathroom glass that she wipes away before the maid can see. An apple left by the service elevator for the staff who linger a little too long. Ava's calls arrive at more regular intervals. Jonathan grumbles, but takes them regardless, hoping to salvage what he still believes is under his total control. Yet things slip. The staff grow quieter, more brittle. Jonathan's outbursts become routine, if not at Mia, then at the tech responsible for the cameras. At the chef who uses salt instead of seaweed, at the weather, at Ava, at the house itself. He becomes more paranoid and less poetic. Mia, meanwhile, emboldened by the cracks, risks more. She visits the shadowed storage below the house, discovering a backup generator with handwritten maintenance logs signed T. She begins to leave coded marks, a scratch on a conduit, a loose wire twisted gently the wrong way. When Jonathan is preoccupied or absent, she enters the small room behind the kitchen, where Ava once stood, this time removing a single framed photo and replacing it with a slip of paper, a sketch of the spiral stair, the tower's one blind corner. Jonathan's vigilance becomes frantic. One night, he wakes her at 3 a.m. with a question. "Did you move the red vase in the foyer?" Mia shakes her head. "Perhaps the staff, or maybe you did." He does not answer but spends an hour reviewing footage, muttering, growing more and more agitated. By dawn, he is grey-faced and twitchy, his self-assurance splintering. Mia observes every change. When Jonathan asks, in a moment of unusual vulnerability, "Are you happy here?" she looks him in the eye and says, "I want to believe in the fantasy you built for me." He searches her face, uncertain. Mia keeps her gaze level, daring him to question her further. Each day, she moves through the house a little more freely, testing the limits of his attention, prodding the cage from within. Each night, she maps the weak spots of the house, of the man, of the whole fantasy. She is not free, but she is no longer powerless. Mia begins to dream in blueprints and escape routes. When she next meets Ava, the real war of secrets, alliances, and betrayals will begin. Chapter 8. Alliances. Women in glass houses. The morning arrives, washed clean by rain. Eve House smolders with ozone and unstable quiet, as if the storm has only rearranged the tension rather than resolved it. Mia wakes to the persistent ache beneath her ribs, the kind that comes from too many nights spent waiting for shoes to drop. She isn't free, but she is no longer waiting passively. The day starts with preparations for another high-profile investor visit. Jonathan, harried by restless sleep, issues commands with extra sharpness. "We need absolute precision today," he says, not meeting Mia's eyes. He's obsessed with control, yet everything about him reads as a man barely holding the pieces. Mia meets Ava in the garden atrium under the pretense of finalizing floral arrangements. The two women move among orchids and glass globes, voices low. "Did you get my message?" Ava asks, hands steady as she trims a stem. Mia nods, excitement masked by a deliberate, neutral smile. "Tonight," Ava whispers, after the second toast. There's a moment of chaos in catering. The lights always dim for the cake reveal. If you're ready, that's your time. Mia's pulse thrums, cold and electric. "What about the staff?" she asks. "Some are with us. They won't stop you, but they also can't be seen to help." Ava's gaze is warm for a heartbeat. "I was once you, remember?" This house leaves scars. Mia thinks of the video on Jonathan's drive. Ava, a ghost of herself, recast now as an ally. The day's performance is exhausting. Jonathan's paranoia sharpens with every minor misstep. The slightly wilted salad, the flicker of a candle, the quiet between Mia and Ava that he senses but cannot decipher. He inspects the security suite before guests arrive, barking at tech staff to review backup footage. Mia follows silently, eyes tracing the small errors that have grown into fault lines in his once perfect house. Evening falls, the house grows gold with slanted light, and guests fill every surface with idle talk and awe. Jonathan moves like a conductor, orchestrating praise and envy, never letting go of his illusion of mastery. Ava blends into the crowd, no longer an outsider, but a peer, quietly powerful, lending Mia unseen strength. At the second toast, the moment Ava foretold arrives, the lights dim, music swells, and the catering team rolls through with veiled carts. Jonathan dazzles guests near the piano, monologuing on the theme of transparency. Mia slips out of sight, heart jackhammering, her route calculated from days of observation and nights of practice. She accesses the staff corridor. The one Ava signaled was safest. A cleaning cart blocks one camera. A staffer lingers by a panel, purposefully oblivious. Mia mouths, "Thank you," and passes. Feet soundless on tile. She enters Jonathan's private office, retrieves the hidden drive, and checks her steps. In the hallway she spots a reflection. Ava's nod, almost imperceptible, from behind the catering cart. For a moment, Mia is seized with terror. What if this is the final trap? But then Ava's expression centers her. A lifeline, not a snare. Back at the party, Jonathan's mask is slipping. He notices a missing glass from the bar, a book rearranged on a shelf, and begins scanning for Mia. Panic simmers behind his grin. Ava intercepts him, drawing his attention with a crisis of paperwork for the new project. She turns the full force of her charm on him, distracting as only a practiced survivor can. Without the cameras on her, just for a heartbeat, Mia makes her way to the guest wing, ducking into a supply closet to steady her breath. The sounds of laughter, music, and Jonathan's comic desperation echo faintly. Here, for the first time, she feels the power of real collaboration, of secrets shared, not hoarded. The climax of the evening crashes down. Jonathan, unable to find Mia, loses his composure. Staff and guests sense the shift, eyes flickering with unease. Ava soothes the moment. "Let's toast to surprises," she announces, her voice bright, her gesture sweeping the guests back to conviviality. Mia emerges a few minutes later, face carefully composed, offering a plausible excuse about feeling faint from the heat. Jonathan, wild-eyed, tries to reassert order, but the spell is irreparably broken. The guests enjoy the final course and depart, but not without noting the strangeness that now infects the house. After midnight, with only the staff remaining, Mia and Ava meet once more in the shadows of the kitchen. "You have it?" Ava asks, voice just above a whisper. Mia nods. "What next?" she asks. Ava's smile is razor-thin. "We do this on your terms. You're ready." Something fundamental has changed, not just in the house, but in Mia herself. Through shared risk, hidden messages, and bravery in plain sight, she's found an unexpected alliance, a weapon Jonathan never anticipated. The glass house gleams in the pale light, but beneath its polished surfaces, two women plot the end of a tyrant's fantasy. Every power structure, Mia now sees, can be broken from within. Chapter 9. Collapse. Begins. Fragments. The morning after the storm, Eve House seems quieter, as if it too is catching its breath. The glassy palace, once Jonathan's monument to control, now holds uneasy energy, its reflections harboring secrets. Mia wakes with her resolve sharper than ever. Her clandestine alliance with Ava gives her purpose. Every move, now a calculation. Jonathan's mood is brittle. He barks orders. Staff must keep the house immaculate. Techs must review security footage for errors. And Mia must adhere to a schedule micromanaged to the minute. He checks cameras more obsessively, scrolling through feeds with the frantic air of a gambler watching dice roll. Mia obeys, but quietly she stirs chaos in the little things. She resets the smart home system's preferences just before important calls, swaps morning pills for placebos, misplaces wireless speaker remotes, and subtly encourages staff confusion. Feedback loops begin to form. Doors not opening, lights dimming at odd hours. 1,000 technological ghosts haunting Jonathan's carefully designed world. Ava, her presence woven subtly into events, delays further business deals. With practiced charm, she recommends discretion to investors and quietly spreads the word that Jonathan's temper is unsettled. The effect is immediate. Contractors grow nervous. One major sponsor halts payment citing rumors of instability, and legal counsel schedules a private call with Ava for risk assessment. Jonathan rages at dinner, accusing everyone of sabotage. Mia listens, masking her elation, and asks gentle questions. Could something be wrong with the network? Should we bring in outside experts? Each suggestion makes him feel less sure of his domain. Mia leaves clues for staff with whom she's built a fragile trust. A coffee mug turned upside down. A paperclip bent into an arrow. A maintenance request phrased in an odd way. One housekeeper lingers in the hall after shift change. "Be careful," she whispers, eyes nervous but kind. He watches everything. Mia nods, gratitude building into resolve. One night, Jonathan discovers a folder on his tablet moved, a draft email changed. He launches into a panicked search, scouring logs, calling staff to his office one by one. Questions fly. Who accessed what? Why wasn't his safe locked? No one admits anything. Fear brews, but among the team, an undercurrent of quiet resistance grows. Mia finds herself in places she shouldn't be, behind the kitchen service corridor, in the mechanical room, up a rarely used service stair to the roof. Everywhere she goes, she maps escape paths, observes staff routines, and leaves marks. A scratch behind a thermostat, a single red tile turned backward. It is a slow, methodical campaign. Not a riot, but an unraveling. Fractures begin to show. Jonathan cancels media appearances, citing health. Guests are postponed, then strike themselves from future invitations altogether. The local delivery driver grumbles to Mia. He's changed. Used to tip well. Never smiles now. The town's rumor mill begins its work. Ava supplies the next destabilizing revelation. She sends Jonathan an encrypted file with urgent design flaws needing his attention. The file is legitimate. She commissioned an independent engineer to quietly expose architectural risks in Eve House. Jonathan is forced to admit his masterpiece isn't invincible. He spends hours poring over blueprints, his hands shaking as he tries to find flaws before the scandal can. The final blow comes 2 weeks after the storm. A backup generator, already quietly tampered with by a sympathetic staff member, fails during a seaside dinner with an important potential client. The house plunges into darkness and silence. Alarms chirp, then die. Jonathan is humiliated in front of his guest. The dinner is aborted, the client leaves, and the following day Jonathan awakes to news that his most loyal investor has pulled funding. That night, his confidence shatters. He calls Mia to the main living room, ranting about loyalty and betrayal. "This is my creation, mine," he shouts, voice echoing off the glass, hands trembling as if the weight of the world has landed on his shoulders. Mia, serene behind her mask, only replies, "What if the house is tired of keeping secrets?" Alone in her room, Mia can't quite suppress a shiver. The walls seem less transparent, less alive with threat, more with possibility. The collapse has begun, and she is ready for the next move. Chapter 10. Turning Point. The Master's Blind Spot. The days at Eve House blur into one another. Fracturing routines, frayed tempers, hope creeping quietly into the spaces Mia claims as her own. Jonathan spends more time at his desk, surrounded by blueprints and tablets, lines etched deep into his face. He's stopped pretending he's in control. Now, he's simply searching for which corner his power will collapse in first. Mia studies him from a distance, noting every small ritual, the way he double-checks security feeds, his urgent phone calls to architects and engineers, the rage in his voice when another investor walks away. The staff are shadows, silent, efficient, but more receptive to Mia's whispered thanks and coded gestures than ever. She wonders, have they chosen a side, or are they simply anticipating the inevitable? Late one afternoon, Jonathan asks Mia to join him in the master suite. Rain lashes the windows, the outside world a blur. He is pacing, clutching a set of detailed floor plans. "Do you know why this house is perfect?" he begins, trying to summon the old bravado. "Because there is nowhere to hide. That's its strength." Mia steps closer. "Even for you, Jonathan?" she asks, voice low but sure. His eyes flick over her, searching for the old fear, but finding none. He laughs, but it echoes, hollow and thin. He explains, for the first time in months, his favorite secret, a room hidden by optical illusion and layered glass. A sanctuary, he calls it, undetectable from any camera, invisible from outside the house, a blind spot I designed as a safety valve. His pride leaks into every word. He knows she hates the glass, but he believes she is in awe. He takes her to the partition behind his study, showing her the triple refracted reflections, the way walls disappear if approached at just the right angle. Only I know just how to enter, he brags. He steps into the room, beckons her with a smile. Inside there is stillness, no hum of security, no echo of the sea, only Jonathan's breathing and the quiet click as he locks the door. He shows her his hidden cash, personal ledgers, private servers, a small safe containing old-fashioned keys and contracts. If anything ever happens, this is the nerve center, he says, pulling out a sleek tablet. Everything the house knows, it collects here. He holds it out, a gesture of trust or warning. Mia can't tell which. She sits on the bench, feeling the cold seep into her bones. Her mind races. She has found the beating heart of Eve House, the one space Jonathan has not polluted with ceaseless monitoring. The irony is sharp. In his obsession to see everything, he has created a vulnerability. Jonathan's mood softens. For an hour, he recounts stories. His childhood spent in locked rooms, the inspiration for glass as both shield and mirror, the betrayal that steeled his need to control. For a brief, strange hour, Mia sees the frightened boy behind the master architect. But as dusk approaches, his walls return. He abruptly ends the confession, leaving Mia alone for a moment as he collects himself in the hall. Inside the blind spot, Mia acts quickly. She memorizes the codes on the safe, the layout of the computers. She places her copied drive in a crevice behind a vent, flattening herself against the wall as if she too could become glass. She checks the USB backup, still taped inside her vanity drawer. Both are secure. That evening, after dinner, the power flickers as another squall passes. Jonathan's nerves fray further. When he retreats to the master's blind spot, he doesn't notice Mia's subtle changes, the position of a ledger on his shelf, a micro-cassette left out instead of stowed, the safe's dial turned half a tick off. He only mutters to himself, refusing to look her in the eyes. Later, Mia returns to the secret room, this time alone. She sits on the bench and allows herself a long, deep breath. This room is both a sanctuary and a trap. She imagines locking herself inside, or locking Jonathan out, using his own confidence against him. For once, the absence of surveillance is a comfort. She spends the night drawing new plans in her head, how to trigger a system-wide shutdown, how to exploit blind angles, how to lure Jonathan into revealing his last, rawest weakness. She is no longer silhouetted or on display. She is hidden, plotting the means to reclaim her freedom, and perhaps to end Jonathan's illusion of power for good. The next morning, as Jonathan inspects the damage from the storm, Mia stands behind the glass, eyes narrowing with clear intent. She is no longer afraid of the light. She is ready to use it. Chapter 11. Doubt. The house watches back. Dawn arrives in muted greys, the aftermath of last night's thunderstorm softening Eve House's sharp silhouettes. From her bed, Mia watches pale light filter through the glass walls, illuminating droplets that cling like teardrops. Sleep never comes easily now. Her mind circles the blind spot's secrets, the shattered files, and the relentless weight of what she's set in motion. Alone in her transparent cocoon, she wonders, has she misjudged the strength of the cage she inhabits? By mid-morning, Jonathan is already at his desk, eyes red-rimmed, clutching a mug of black coffee. He looks drawn, as if every sleepless night has etched new lines into his face. When Mia appears for breakfast, perfectly composed in her solitude, he forces a smile. "Rough night?" he asks, though his tone sounds accusatory. She nods politely and pours her own coffee, mindful that every detail of her behavior is recorded. He hovers by her side, phone in hand, scrolling through emails from angry investors, concerned engineers, and Ava's pointed memos. His fingers tremble as he taps out replies, masking panic with professional detachment. Mia sips her coffee, tasting bitterness in more than just the roast. Doubt, she realizes, has crept into Jonathan's mind, and in that vacuum of certainty lies her opportunity. After breakfast, Jonathan convenes a staff meeting in the solarium. Cameras swivel to capture every face. He stands before them, silver-haired and taut, delivering a speech about resilience and ingenuity. "We will emerge stronger," he proclaims, voice echoing. "This house is the pinnacle of design." Yet his gaze flickers to Mia, seeking reassurance. She sits among the staff, no longer spectator, but a silent accomplice in his unraveling, feigning unwavering faith. Once the meeting disperses, Mia slips away to the control room. The monitors glow, each feed showcasing a slice of the glass labyrinth. She studies them with familiarity born of necessity. The flicker at camera 6 during power surges, the dead angle by the guest wing staircase, the thermostat panel that always resets to an extreme chill at midday. She touches the screen, imagining how a single keystroke could disable entire sectors. Anxiety and exhilaration coil within her. She is no longer paralyzed by fear, but by the gravity of the choice ahead. In the afternoon, Ava visits again. They meet in the kitchen, voices low. Ava's expression is solemn. Her solidarity carries the weight of her own scars. "He's unraveling," Ava says, placing a reassuring hand on Mia's arm. "Soon he'll lash out. Be prepared." Mia's heart pounds. She realizes her plan must accelerate. Waiting only heightens risk. Back upstairs, Jonathan calls her into his office. Behind him, schematics of the blind spot loom on the wall. He gestures to the plans with a trembling hand. "I can't trust the systems anymore," he admits, fatigue and shame warring in his eyes. "Help me test the redundancies." Mia steps forward, heart hammering. She masks her triumph with empathy. "Of course," she says. "Let's walk through every protocol." Together, they begin the audit, testing sensors, reviewing security logs, reenacting breaches. Mia plays her part flawlessly, identifying false positives, proposing improvements, all the while logging vulnerabilities for her own use. Each discovery steals her resolve, but doubt flickers within. Is she becoming as trapped by her own deceptions as she once was under Jonathan's gaze? Later, as she catalogues test results in the sunroom, the house seems to watch her back. Reflections ripple across the glass, folding her image into 1,000 fragments. She braces herself against the wall. What if, despite all her plotting, some part of the house defies control? What if Jonathan's final defenses are yet undiscovered, waiting to ensnare her? That evening, Jonathan announces a trial run, a closed demonstration for a private client. He assigns Mia the role of observer rather than participant. She stands behind the gallery rail, arms crossed, as he guides the client through the house's features. His confidence returns momentarily, crisp voice, assured gestures, the old brilliance flickering through cracks of anxiety. But when he turns to showcase the blind spot, he pauses, in front of its glass facade, searching for Mia. She's nowhere to be found. Panic flares in his eyes. Mia hears his voice thicken. "Mia, where are you?" The client's gaze shifts nervously. She steps forward, emerging from the shadows. "Right here," she says softly. Jonathan's relief is palpable, but so is his suspicion. He brushes past her, waving a hand to distract the client. Mia forces a serene nod, but her pulse races. His need to know her every move has only grown, even as his control slips. After the client departs, transaction postponed, Jonathan confronts Mia in the foyer. Rain begins again outside. "You hide in plain sight," he says, voice low. "Tell me the truth. Are you with me or against me?" Mia looks him in the eye, sensing that this moment will define everything to come. Doubt twists within her. Loyalty to Ava's plan, fear of unexpected traps, compassion for the boy she once believed could love her. She breathes, then chooses. "I'm here to help," she whispers, "but only if you trust me." For a heartbeat, Jonathan's defenses waver. Then he nods, pulling her into a tense embrace. "I need you," he admits. As he retreats to recalibrate security systems, Mia stands alone in the rain-slick foyer, cloaked by droplets and uncertainty. Doubt, she understands now, is both weapon and weakness. The house watches back, sensing the fissure in her resolve. To succeed, she must banish her own uncertainty and strike before Jonathan can repair his fractured empire, and before the glass walls close in on her once more. Chapter 12. Flashback. The Maker's Motive. Rain drums a low rhythm on the roof, while Mia sinks into the hidden room's velvet chair, a tablet glowing in her lap. Jonathan is asleep for once, drugged by exhaustion and the red wine he gulped after midnight. The house hums under emergency lighting, half the panels still offline from last week's storm. Inside the blind spot, nothing records her. The silence feels like borrowed time. She opens a folder labeled Orion Archive. It is the oldest directory on Jonathan's private server, stamped with dates from 20 years ago. The first file is a digitized photo, a boy of maybe 10, thin and solemn, pressed against a window streaked with frost. A caption reads, Jonathan Arkay, 1995. Mother's Studio, Hudson Valley. Mia scrolls. Audio transcript. Mother, August 15, 1997. Boy's voice, whispering. Why can't I come in? Woman's voice, distant. Glass keeps the dust out. Don't worry, you can see me. That's enough. Boy, it isn't enough. Sound, glass tapping. Mia shivers. She pictures the child staring at a mother sealed away among canvases, touching the pain like a border he cannot cross. She keeps reading. Journal scan. Father's notebook. Transparency breeds obedience. If she sees me watching, she will mind her tone. If the boy sees both of us, he will learn the value of honesty. The words are cramped, scientific, stripped of tenderness. Mia feels her chest tighten. The notebook flips to blueprints of a small glass conservatory, wired with vents and external locks. Early sketches of imprisonment disguised as openness. A video loads next. Grainy home footage, dated 2002. Teenage Jonathan guides a camcorder across a cluttered attic. The camera tilts toward a skylight, where his reflection merges with clouds. Jonathan, voice cracking, if you can't hide, you can't lie. If you can't lie, maybe they won't leave. The feed cuts. Mia exhales, realizing she has been leaning forward, jaw clenched. She recognizes the loneliness in his tone, yet also the first spark of the obsession that would one day encase her. She continues. Project Chimera. Proposal. Senior thesis, Cooper Union. Hypothesis. Architectural transparency can recombine public and private spheres, erasing the space where betrayal germinates. Design. Residence composed of nested glass shells. Inner layer for the occupant, outer layer for the observer. Outcome. Mutual accountability. A professor's red ink scribbles. Brilliant but cruel. Where does consent live? Mia scrolls faster, hungry for the answer. Therapy session audio, 2005. Therapist. You speak about glass as if it feels. Jonathan, older now, voice steady. It does feel. It chills you if you try to hide. It warms when you surrender. Therapist. And people inside those spaces, do they get to choose? Silence. Jonathan. Choice is the lie that breaks families. Mia closes the file, heart racing. The boy at the window has grown into a man convinced that control is safety. She suddenly understands why the cameras soothe him. Every blinking lens is a promise that nobody will vanish without warning. But the revelation sharpens her focus instead of softening it. If his childhood built the cage, it can also be the fault line that breaks it. She copies the archive onto her secondary drive, then pauses at a final folder marked Exit Protocol. Inside is a detailed plan for abandoning Eve House in the event of catastrophic breach. Offshore accounts, forged passports, a private jet on retainer. The chilling part is the footnote. Subject classified as proprietary artwork. Retrieve or destroy to avoid legal exposure. The words retrieve or destroy send a cold ripple down Mia's spine. She is not a partner in Jonathan's eyes, not even a person, only intellectual property to be salvaged or erased. She snaps the tablet shut, sweat dampening her palms. For weeks she has played a slow chess match, believing she could outwit him within the house. Now she sees the larger board. Jonathan has already prepared to disappear, and if necessary, erase her. There will be no gentle unmasking, only escape or extinction. Mia stands, sliding the copied drive beneath the lining of her robe. The house creaks, settling after the rain. She pictures young Jonathan, forehead against glass, wishing to be seen. He built a world where no one can look away, and yet he is still that boy. terrified of the moment the observer leaves. That terror is her leverage. She returns the tablet to its drawer, leaving everything else untouched. Before she exits, she rearranges a single book on the shelf. Invisible Cities, turning the spine inward, a silent signal to herself that she has crossed a point of no return. In the corridor, muted night lights cast long ribbons of color. She heads toward her room but detours to the staff wing. At a linen closet, she taps twice, pauses, taps once more. The door opens a crack. The night housekeeper peers out. Mia whispers, "Tomorrow. Early shift. Hall D. Bring the service key." The woman nods, fear and resolve mingling in her eyes. Back in her suite, Mia writes a single sentence in her diary, knowing Jonathan will read it by morning. The truth is clearest when the glass breaks. Then she hides the diary under her pillow, lies down, and listens to the rain fade. Sleep still evades her, but exhaustion eventually pulls her under. She dreams of the boy at the frost-streaked window. This time, she stands on the other side of the glass, hand outstretched. Just as their fingers meet, the pane cracks, not a spiderweb fracture, but one clean line from edge to edge. The boy looks startled, then relieved. Light floods in, and Mia wakes with a gasp. To real sunrise, warm and gold, spilling unchecked across the room. Today, the house feels different, lighter. Knowledge has weight, but it also has momentum. She rises, every nerve alive with purpose. The archive in her robe presses against her ribcage like a second heartbeat. Jonathan's footsteps approach down the hall, measured, wary. Mia straightens her shoulders, meeting the doorway before he can knock. He opens his mouth to speak, but she steps past him first, eyes forward, voice calm. "Let's talk about what comes next." The surprise on his face is almost enough to make her smile. Almost. She keeps walking toward the atrium, where sunlight scatters in fierce shards. Behind her, Jonathan hesitates, caught between the role of puppet master and the child longing to be seen. The glass does not care which one he chooses. It only reflects. Chapter 13. Spiral. Shards of Trust. Rain-damp air still clings to Eve House, but Mia senses the shift the instant she enters the atrium, with Jonathan at her heels. The sun knifes through the clouds, scattering prisms across the glass floor. It is beautiful, merciless light, and for once she welcomes it. Jonathan circles her like a nervous director. "Something's different this morning," he mutters, trying for calm, yet sounding wind-shredded. His eyes dart to cameras, to ceiling mics, then back to her. "I need absolute transparency, Mia. Talk to me." She turns slowly, letting the robe slip from her shoulders so he sees she has nothing, apparently, left to hide. "Transparency," she repeats, tasting the irony. "Let's begin with what you're afraid of." He opens his mouth, then closes it. The silence hangs like a blade. Finally, he gestures toward the living room. "I want to show you something." They move past panels that hum with buried tension until they reach the heart of the surveillance suite. Wall-high screens rolling silent footage of her days, her nights, her every exhale. Jonathan taps a console. The feeds stutter, resolving into time-stamped windows. He isolates one clip. Mia, last night, slipping into the staff corridor. "Explain," he demands, voice tight. Mia studies the image, her own shadow flickering across the wall, and feels no fear. "I checked the generator," she says evenly. "After your last failure, I thought you'd want me to verify the new relay." He hesitates, thrown off by the reasonableness. "You should have told me." "You were busy," she replies, letting the words sink needles beneath his composure. "You're always busy, saving perfection." Jonathan's jaw works. He swivels to another feed, Mia crouched beside a vent in the blind spot, though the angle catches only the suggestion of movement. "This room is private," he snaps, "even from you." "Then remove the door." Her challenge is ice cold. "Or admit privacy matters only when it's yours." Something fractures. Jonathan slams a palm against the console. Screens bloom static, then clear. His breath comes ragged. "Why are you pushing me?" "Because I'm close," she thinks. But aloud she says, Because the house is pushing us both. She meets his stare. You built a mirror for your childhood ghosts, Jonathan. They're showing. The truth slices deeper than accusation. His shoulders sag. For a flicker of a moment, the architect's mask slips, revealing the boy who pressed his face to frost-rimmed glass. Then defenses snap back. We can repair this, he insists, as if chanting a spell. We redesign protocols, reset the staff, start over. His eyes sharpen. And Ava, she's poisoning investors. She must be stopped. Mia lets the name hover. Ava sees what the clients see, a masterpiece cracking. Because she's wedged herself into the fault lines. He paces. If I cut her out, the funding returns, the narrative resets. But first, he wheels on Mia, I need to know you're with me. She steps forward until they share reflected breaths on a pane. I am with the truth, she murmurs. Stand in it, Jonathan, or be shattered by it. For one suspended instant, she thinks he might choose honesty. Instead, he turns away, fingers flying over controls. Full security lockdown, no external calls, staff confined to quarters. Alarms pulse, soft red. Doors seal. Somewhere below, magnetic bolts clunk into place. Mia's stomach flips. Closing the cage so soon was the one scenario she couldn't time. But panic passes quickly. She has maps in her head, allies in the walls, and a drive pressed against her ribs. She slips out while Jonathan mutters at the system, heading for the staff wing before lockdown completes. The corridor lights dim to emergency rhythm, 2 beats on, 1 beat off, casting the house in fever dream pulses. Mia taps at Hall D's linen door. 2 knocks, a pause, 1 knock. It opens to reveal Clara, the night housekeeper, eyes wide. Service key, Mia whispers. Clara presses the small fob into her palm and jerks her chin toward the freight lift. They're scared, she says, but some will help. Tell them to stay invisible, Mia answers. Everything depends on timing. Clara hesitates. He's armed the secondary failsafes. If you trip them... I won't, Mia promises, though her heart thunders. She squeezes Clara's hand and slips away. The freight lift shudders to a halt at sub-level maintenance. Here the air tastes of copper and damp insulation. Mia navigates by memory to the backup power node, its casing still scarred by her earlier sabotage. She unpockets a slim Bluetooth drive, plugs it into the diagnostic port, and enters the string Ava taught her. CHIMERA GLASSEVE. Lines of code cascade. The house's sensor grid maps onto a handheld screen, zones blinking green, yellow, red. She isolates camera 19, the dead angle beside the guest wing stairwell, and kills its neighbor feeds in a 3-meter radius. A brief blackout no one will notice unless they look. Next, she cues the blind spot's door locks, assigning them a new remote trigger, her borrowed service fob. If Jonathan retreats inside, he won't exit without her say-so. Finally, she splices a timed command. At 2200, all public area shutters will raise simultaneously, flooding the house with exterior Klieg lights. Ava's crew is already positioning on the cliff road. The spectacle will expose everything inside to any lens pointed their way. Press drones, law enforcement, investors dialed into a private stream Ava will release. Mia yanks the drive free. The node hum resumes. No alarms. Good. She checks her watch. 1847. Upstairs, Jonathan prowls the mezzanine, barking into a secure handset. I don't care what it costs. Freeze Ava's accounts. He stops as Mia appears, sweat shining at his temples. Where have you been? Trying to calm the staff, she lies. They're panicking. Let them. Fear keeps them sharp. He gestures for her to follow. Come, we'll wait out the storm in the sanctuary. Perfect. They reach the mirrored partition. Jonathan waves his palm, and the seamless door slides open. Inside, servers blink. The room smells of chilled metal and cologne. He locks the panel. No interruptions, he declares, crossing to the safe. Mia stands by the vent, pulse racing. The seconds drum in her ears. Jonathan keys the safe, rummages for envelopes, offshore deeds, fake passports. Once we're airborne, the narrative resets, he mutters. We'll rebuild somewhere the critics can't find us. And me? Mia asks softly. You're part of the art. Of course you come. He glances up, misreading her stillness. Everything I've done has been for us. Us, she echoes, stepping closer. In her hand, the service fob warms. Then trust me. She presses the fob. Outside, unseen pistons slam. The sanctuary door seals with a metallic thunk. Jonathan's head snaps toward the sound. What did you? Insurance, Mia says, voice steady. No more exits until truth floods in. He lunges for the door panel. Dead. He wheels around, fury flaring. Open it. At 10 o'clock the world will see what you've hidden, she answers. Your servers, your files, your masterpieces of control. And they'll see me, alive, unowned. You think exposure will save you? He laughs, but it quavers. I control every narrative. Not tonight. She withdraws the drive from her robe and slides it into the master console. Screens blossom with folders. Subject archives, investor bribes, exit protocols, auto-uploading to Ava's cloud address. Jonathan rushes her. They grapple, slipping on polished floor. He's stronger, adrenaline-charged, but desperation skews his aim. Mia pivots, sending him crashing into a server rack. Circuits spark, plunge part of the room into darkness. Sprinklers hiss. Fine mist descending. Red strobes ignite. Jonathan staggers upright, hair plastered to his brow. You'll ruin everything. I'm freeing it, she counters. Alarms elsewhere howl as power reroutes. 21:59 flashes on the wall clock. Jonathan tries the door again. The lock light stays crimson. He pounds once, twice, then spins, eyes wild. You wanted choice? Fine. Choose. Unlock us and share the empire, or burn with it. Mia feels no terror now, only sorrow for the boy trapped behind ghosts. I choose light, she whispers. 22 časa. The shutters throughout Eve House lift in unison. Exterior Klieg's blaze, turning night to surgical noon. Every room becomes a stage. Staff huddled, cameras whirring, drones swooping in hunger. Live feeds burst across private channels worldwide. Ava's doing. Inside the sanctuary, transparent walls glow harsh white, exposing Jonathan's shaking form beside shelves of stolen intimacy. He looks around, suddenly small. Mia steps toward him, palm out. Not in surrender, but in farewell. You can still stand in the truth, she says. For a heartbeat he seems to consider it. Then his shoulders sag, eyes sliding to the floor. Turn it off, he rasps. Please. But the house no longer obeys him. Sirens wail up the cliff road. Police, press. Maybe former investors come to witness the spectacle. Glass reflects a man undone by the very transparency he worshipped. Mia unlocks the door. It slides open with a hiss. Beyond, corridors blaze with uncompromising light. She looks back once, a final image of power stripped bare, then walks out, barefoot, unhurried. Her steps carry no fear, only momentum. The spiral has tightened to its center, and she is no longer the one caught inside. Chapter 14. Exposure. The Invisible Witness. Light floods Eve House like revelation itself. Harsh, uncompromising, inescapable. Every Klieg beam cuts through glass walls that once promised privacy, now delivering the opposite. Mia steps from the sanctuary into corridors blazing white as an operating theater, her bare feet sure on floors that shimmer with reflected radiance. Behind her, Jonathan remains frozen in his glass tomb, staring at screens that broadcast his secrets to the world. The house trembles with approaching engines. Through transparent walls, Mia watches vehicles snake up the cliff road. News vans with satellite dishes, unmarked sedans that scream federal authority, and sleek sports cars she recognizes as belonging to Jonathan's former clients. Ava has orchestrated this perfectly. The exposure arrives from every angle, ensuring no story can be buried or spun. Staff emerge from their quarters like startled deer, blinking in the sudden illumination. Clara appears at Mia's elbow, still clutching her service fob. The loading dock, she whispers urgently. Ava's people secured it 20 minutes ago. Mia nods, but doesn't move toward escape yet. Something holds her. Not fear, but the gravity of witness. From the main gallery, she watches the first journalists breach the property line. Their cameras swivel hungrily toward the house, zooming through crystal-clear walls to capture every detail of the interior. One reporter, a sharp-faced woman in a red blazer, speaks rapid fire into her microphone. Unprecedented violation of privacy laws, with federal investigators now confirming multiple international complaints. The words drift through the house's intercom system. Jonathan had wired every external microphone to broadcast inside, another layer of his obsession with total awareness. Now, his own surveillance betrays him. Mia moves to the main security station, where bank of monitors show feeds from across the property. She sees Ava directing a convoy of black SUVs, her silver hair catching Klieg light as she points towards secondary entrances. On another screen, FBI agents in windbreakers examine the house's exterior, tablets in hand, cross-referencing architectural plans with warrant specifications. A knock echoes through the house, formal, authoritative. Mia walks to the main entrance, her nakedness no longer shame, but statement. Through the transparent door, she sees a woman in a dark suit flanked by two agents, badge wallet open in the universal gesture of law enforcement. "Ma'am, I'm Special Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. We have a warrant to search these premises and remove evidence of human trafficking and privacy violations." The agent's voice carries through the glass, professional but not unkind. "Are you Mia Santos?" Mia nods, placing her palm against the door. "I am." Jonathan Arkay is in the sanctuary room, sealed in by his own security system. She gestures toward the hidden partition. "The access codes are on the server I uploaded. He can't escape." Agent Chen's expression sharpens. "Are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" "I need clothes," Mia says simply, "and I need to testify." Behind the agents, more vehicles arrive. Mia recognizes faces from Jonathan's parties, investors who once sipped champagne while observing her captivity, now pale with legal terror. A few attempt to flee, but Ava's security team channels them toward waiting FBI units with practiced efficiency. Through the chaos, Mia spots a familiar figure. Dr. Maria Santos, the therapist whose sessions with Jonathan she'd found in the archived files. The woman looks older, grayer, but her eyes hold the same compassion Mia remembered from those recordings. She approaches with a duffel bag and a gentle smile. "I brought clothes," Dr. Santos says through the glass. "And context. I've been working with authorities for months, ever since Ava reached out with the preliminary evidence." Mia's throat tightens. "You helped build the case?" "Your courage built the case," Dr. Santos replies. "We just provided the framework to hold it." The lock mechanisms finally yield to FBI override codes. As the door opens, Mia steps across the threshold, her first unmonitored exit from Eve House in over a year. Ocean air hits her skin, salt and freedom in equal measure. She accepts the clothes, simple jeans, a soft sweater, and dresses slowly, savoring each layer as armor reclaimed. From inside the house, a sound like breaking glass echoes. Through the transparent walls, Mia sees Jonathan pounding against the sanctuary door, his composure finally shattered completely. Agent Chen speaks into her radio. "Suspect is secured in location Zulu. Send the technical team for extraction." Ava appears at Mia's side, no longer the polished businesswoman, but someone showing battle scars. "The download's completed 15 minutes ago," she says quietly. "Every file, every video, every transaction. It's all in federal hands now." She pauses, studying Mia's face. "How do you feel?" Mia considers the question. Around them, the investigation unfolds like a ballet of justice, agents cataloging evidence, reporters broadcasting truth, survivors emerging from shadows she never knew existed. Other women are arriving now, faces Mia recognizes from Jonathan's archived files. They gather at the property's edge, no longer hidden, no longer alone. "Empty," Mia says finally, "but not hollow, like space carved out for something better." Dr. Santos approaches with a laptop. The archived sessions show Jonathan's escalation pattern. Your case is the keystone, but there are at least 17 other women across 6 countries. The legal ramifications will be, she searches for words, extensive. Through the glass house, Mia watches technicians work to extract Jonathan from his self-imposed prison. He appears smaller now, stripped of the architecture that amplified his power. When he finally emerges, flanked by agents, his eyes find hers across the blazing property. For a moment, she sees not the predator, but the frightened boy from the archived footage, the child who wanted to be seen, who confused watching with loving, control with care. She feels no hatred, only the profound sadness of lives twisted by invisible wounds. Jonathan tries to speak, but Agent Chen's firm hand guides him toward a vehicle. His last glimpse of Eve House shows it exactly as he designed it. Completely transparent, every secret exposed, the irony is perfect and devastating. As dawn breaks over the Pacific, news crews establish their base camp. The story spreads across networks, social media, international press. Glass House trends globally, #activism, demanding justice for surveillance abuse victims worldwide. Mia watches the coverage from Ava's SUV, wrapped in a blanket that smells like freedom. The preliminary hearing is in 3 weeks, Ava says, handing her a secure phone. You'll have victim advocates, legal protection, whatever you need, but Mia, she pauses, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. Mia nods, then looks back at Eve House one final time. The Klieg lights are dimming as FBI teams secure the scene, but the structure remains illuminated by morning sun, a monument to the dangers of compulsive transparency, of love confused with ownership. She thinks of all the women who will never again live in glass cages, of the systems that will be dismantled, of the boy who could have chosen healing but chose control instead. The exposure she orchestrated will ripple outward, creating accountability where none existed. As they drive away, Mia realizes the most profound truth. She is no longer the woman who entered that house. She is no longer visible by someone else's design, but by her own choice. The glass that once trapped her has become a lens through which the world can see clearly. The invisible witness has made herself known. Chapter 15. Revenge? Red light. The sun is high over the battered shell of Eve House, its 1,000 windows still glittering, but the light cannot reach the shadows inside. Jonathan's arrest is a headline. For Mia, the news is less a satisfaction, more a clearing, a bright, uneasy hush after the storm's last crash. But justice, as Ava cautions, is never simple. The press clamors for victims' faces. Former investors scramble to distance themselves. Investigators comb every inch of the property, and with each hour, more secrets leak out. Mia stands in the borrowed calm of Ava's guest apartment overlooking the sea. It is the first room she's lived in with curtains in months. At night, she pulls them shut and feels the ground of privacy underfoot. Still, rest evades her. The events replay, especially the moments that led to ultimate exposure. A justice both brutal and public. Ava is at her kitchen table, sorting through a swelling stack of notes and news clippings. You're free, Mia, she says, but the world will want what it always wants. A story, a villain, a woman on the stand. Mia nods. And after what? Ava's gaze is iron. You decide, we rewrite it. Or I do. She pushes 2 folders forward. There are victims who want a class action. Others just want to disappear. But the real reckoning will come on camera. Jonathan always wanted an audience. In the days leading up to Jonathan's arraignment, Mia is interviewed by prosecutors, therapists, and eventually the press. She chooses her words with care. He promised liberation, but engineered loss. He called me art, but I was evidence. Her face, once the centerpiece of the glass house, is blurred in most reports, a condition set by her lawyers. Yet her voice, cool and clear, leaks out. She refuses victimhood as an ending. Meanwhile, Ava executes a quiet, calculated campaign against the investors who enabled Jonathan. With Mia's evidence, she exposes kickbacks, hush contracts, and clauses that commoditized pain. Each morning, new names crackle across the news. Civil suits multiply. A partner in Dubai vanishes into exile. Two New York financiers resign. For those who watched but did not speak, Ava's legal team offers a bargain: truth in exchange for leniency, or silence to be cast into light. In the midst of this fallout, Mia receives a letter. Unsigned, but the hand is unmistakable. Jonathan, awaiting trial, has written from solitary. Mia, I always believed in transparency. You were the proof. My love wasn't failure, but defense. Against secrets, against loss. Was it really betrayal, or did I only ever teach you to become the thing I needed? If I am made villain, then make it art. J. She reads it again and again, searching for regret and finding only distortion. She gives the letter to Ava, who wordlessly burns it over the stove. During prep for her testimony, Mia faces a wall of photographs, her face reflected in glass, in police evidence, in news bulletins. She sees herself in these images, changed and ghost-like, but sharp with intent. At first, she is haunted by the eyes watching. Day by day, however, she feels the weight shift. The story is now on her terms, and Jonathan's narrative begins to evaporate. The trial opens under a storm of attention. Jonathan's lawyers try to frame the glass house as consensual performance, the muse as willing participant. Ava, ever the strategist, pushes the timeline, and prosecutors lay out a sequence of escalating manipulations using Mia's encrypted archive. Each video, each contract, gleams under court lights. The defense withers. When Mia takes the stand, the courtroom is silent. She meets Jonathan's eyes, but sees nothing familiar left in them. Her testimony is not performance, but reclamation. He called the house transparent, but it was just a mirror, one that always bent back his own desire. When I stood to leave, I saw myself, finally, not through the glass, but beyond it. I am not what was made of me. By the time Mia steps down, the jury has seen surveillance as weapon, not liberation. The press, for once, is united. Eve House is not avant-garde, but a cautionary tale. The phrase, naked in a glass house, becomes political shorthand. In her temporary bedroom, curtains closed for good measure, Mia receives a final encrypted file from Ava. It's a private feed of the house in ruins, demolition crews moving through like archaeologists. Ava's recorded message is crisp. There is your red light. The recording stopped. Watch if you need to, or delete it. The final choice is yours. Mia does not watch. She wipes the file and lets the past go. Outside, rumors swirl about the auction of the house's glass, the fetish panels, the tabloids call them. Mia ignores the stories. She spends her evenings walking by the sea, unopened phone in her pocket, freedom feeling both immense and strange. As the case closes, Ava meets her in a quiet cafe. No cameras, no files. Revenge is over, Ava says. What remains is what you make next. I'll write it myself, Mia answers, smiling at her reflection in the window, clear, unbroken, and wholly her own. Chapter 16. The Setup. The Art of Escape. The courthouse hallway smelled of dry paper and stale coffee, worlds away from the ocean salt air that once carried through Eve House's transparent bones. Mia sat on a hard wooden bench outside the judge's chambers, listening to distant murmurs and the clack of a single typewriter, still stubbornly in service. Today's hearing was procedural, scheduling sentencing dates, confirming restitution requests. But the building thrummed with anticipation. Every fluorescent bulb hummed like a wasp. Across from her, Agent Sarah Chen read through a thick folder. 2 weeks after Mia's testimony, the prosecution now possessed enough evidence to imprison Jonathan indefinitely. But legal machinery moved slowly, and the defense persisted in filing motion after motion, chain of custody challenges, claims of artistic license, even allegations that Ava and Mia had entrapped their client. It was noise mostly, yet noise had a way of swallowing truth if left unchecked. Mia closed her eyes and breathed. The red sweater she wore felt soft against skin, still learning what simple comfort meant. A single thought pulsed behind her ribs. Finish this. Ready? Agent Chen asked, voice low. Mia nodded. Inside the chamber, the judge, an austere woman with reading glasses perched low, confirmed trial logistics. Dates were set, psychiatric evaluations ordered, restitution escrow established. Jonathan's attorney, sweating despite the air conditioning, requested one last concession, that the glass panels harvested from Eve House be returned to his client as intellectual property. The courtroom rustled. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Counselor, do you mean the literal walls?" Mia's pulse fluttered. She felt Ava's gaze from the row behind her. Cool. Encouraging. Jonathan's lawyer cleared his throat. "Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Arkay asserts the materials remain integral to unfinished artworks." Agent Chen whispered, "They want the evidence." Mia stood before she realized she was moving. "Your Honor, those panels contain embedded cameras. Returning them would compromise victims' privacy and ongoing investigations." Her voice traveled through the chamber, steady, amplified by righteous fatigue. The judge considered. Motion denied. Panels remain impounded. Her gavel landed like a full stop. Relief swept Mia's lungs clear. One more door bolted, one fewer avenue for Jonathan's manipulation. When the session adjourned, Ava shepherded Mia into a private conference room stacked with banker boxes. "We're almost there," Ava said, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. "Inside is a settlement offer from the largest investor group. They want to pay out of court. Keep their names off the record." Mia hesitated. "How much silence does this buy them?" $16 million, split among survivors. Non-disclosure clauses for corporate officers only, not victims. Ava's smile was thin. "It's cleaner than I expected." Mia broke the seal and skimmed numbers, signature lines, legalese. Money meant relocation funds for women who still lived in fear, therapy bills, lost wages, maybe even scholarships for those who'd abandoned schooling. It also meant the investors could slip away without a single headline. She laid the papers down. "No." Ava blinked. "Talk me through it." "They watched," Mia said. "They applauded. Paying us off doesn't erase that complicity. I won't trade their anonymity for cash." Slowly, Ava nodded. "Then we force a civil trial. It'll be brutal." "Less brutal than living in silence." Mia folded the envelope and pushed it aside. "We keep the spotlight on. Jonathan thrives in shadows. We won't give them to him." Ava's expression shifted, from strategist to something softer, proud. "Understood." She tucked the envelope into her briefcase. "We'll decline." That evening, Mia returned to the seaside apartment to find Clara sitting on the front steps, coat zipped to her chin, despite the mild air. The housekeeper, ex-housekeeper, Mia corrected, looked up with cautious relief. "I heard lawyers called the staff for depositions," Clara said. "Most of them are terrified. They think nothing has changed, that men with money still win." "They don't," Mia replied, unlocking the door. "Not this time." Inside, she boiled water for tea, while Clara lingered awkwardly near the counter. "There's something I haven't told anyone," Clara whispered. From her tote, she produced a slim, fire-scorched SD card inside a plastic evidence bag. Security backup. It uploaded automatically to a hidden hub every week. He didn't know this one copied after the fire suppression sprinklers triggered. Mia felt the world tilt. Unseen footage, maybe files Jonathan believed destroyed, could cement any wobbling counts, wipe out defense claims of staging or editing. "Have you shown Agent Chen?" Clara shook her head. "I wanted to give it to you first. Jonathan, he singled you out. Maybe it should be your choice." Mia remembered nights pacing the glass floor, feeling alone, though watched by countless eyes. Footage of that pain existed already, but this card might hold even deeper violations. Moments she'd forced herself to forget. Part of her recoiled, yet another part saw necessity. "Thank you," she said, closing her fingers around the bag. It was warm from Clara's hand, or perhaps from the stored heat of secrets. "We'll view it together. If it helps the case, we turn it in. If it's only more suffering, we destroy it." Clara nodded, tears shining. They sat at the small kitchen table, laptop between them, screen casting blue light on the walls. Mia hesitated before double-clicking the first file. It opened to a wide-angle view of the blind spot after she had locked Jonathan inside. He paced like a caged animal, sobbing, pleading into a dead intercom. No sound, yet the image conveyed ruin. The second clip was older, Mia asleep on the gallery chaise, moonlight tracing her form through floor-to-ceiling glass. Jonathan's hidden camera zoomed slowly toward her face, lingering. A wave of nausea rolled through Mia. She stopped the playback. Clara squeezed her arm. Enough. Yes. Mia copied only the final timestamp, the moment Jonathan realized he was trapped, and dragged the rest into the system trash. With one more click, she emptied the folder, fragments dissolving to digital ash. Some truths served justice, others only fed voyeurism. She placed the rescued clip onto an encrypted thumb drive labeled Evidence Read. Tomorrow she would deliver it to Agent Chen, proof of Jonathan's unfiltered cruelty. Then she snapped the SD card in half and dropped both pieces into a mug of boiling water. Clara watched steam curl upward, eyes bright with quiet vindication. When night settled, Mia drew the curtains and sat at the desk, opening a blank document titled, The Architecture of Consent. Words poured, analysis of how spaces manipulate behavior, testimonies stitched with theory, a manifesto for ethical design. She wrote until dawn tinted the horizon pink, until paragraphs formed a scaffolding sturdier than glass. As the first light touched the window, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Text. Verdict will never change what you carry. Stop this before you break us both. Mia's fingers hovered over the keys. Instead of replying, she opened the drawer, lifted the thumb drive, and slid it into her pocket. She checked the time, 8:03 a.m. 2 hours until her meeting with federal prosecutors. She stood, rolled her shoulders, and looked at her reflection in the dark screen. No cameras gazed back, only her own steady eyes. Jonathan had set the board, but she had learned the game. Now, at last, she would write the rules. The setup was complete. The endgame was hers to orchestrate. Chapter 17. The Betrayal. See-through. The courthouse atrium was marble bright, echoing with footsteps and whispered speculation. Reporters pressed against velvet ropes, their cameras clicking like cicadas in high summer. Mia moved through the corridor with Agent Chen on one side and Ava on the other, a slim flash drive sealed in an evidence pouch resting in her palm like a live ember. Today's pre-sentencing conference should have been procedural, but rumors swirled of a surprise motion from Jonathan's defense, one last gambit to undercut the mountain of proof. The double doors to courtroom 3 swung open. Inside, the air felt denser, charged by 100 hushed conversations. Mia took her customary seat behind the prosecution table, back straight, breath even. Across the aisle, Jonathan sat in an orange jail uniform, wrists cuffed to a chain at his waist. His once immaculate hair hung in damp wisps, yet in his eyes smoldered a strange calm, as if he'd glimpsed a new blueprint no one else could read. Judge Moreno entered, gavel tapping for order. Counsel, we are here on the matter of Arkay versus State for pre-sentencing motions. Defense, you have the floor. Jonathan's lead attorney, a man whose expensive suit could not hide the sheen of desperation, rose. Your Honor, we submit newly discovered exculpatory evidence. He raised a sealed plastic sleeve containing a glossy photograph. At first glance, it showed Eve House's blind spot room ablaze with red sprinkler lights, Mia's silhouette against servers sparking behind her. This still image, pulled from previously unrecovered backups, indicates Ms. Santos tampered with proprietary systems, endangering occupants and property. We contend the prosecution's key witness orchestrated events for personal gain. A rustle swept the gallery. Reporters' fevered typing filled the space. Agent Chen stiffened beside Mia. Ava's teeth clicked together once, steel meeting steel. Defense counsel continued. Furthermore, we have entered into agreement with an independent security consultant prepared to testify that Ms. Santos, not Mr. Arkay, initiated the exposure event, violating federal cybercrime statutes. Jonathan's gaze slid toward Mia. Beneath the courthouse fluorescence, his smile was a hairline crack of triumph. Prosecutor Delaney rose, voice level. Your Honor, we anticipated this tactic. The so-called consultant is a former Arkay employee dismissed for misconduct. We have affidavits from 4 staff members contradicting this account. Delaney nodded to the bailiff, who distributed packets to bench and defense. Exhibit 12 contains sworn statements, confirming Mr. Arkay ordered continuous covert surveillance and personally hard-coded failsafes Mia Santos was forced to override to preserve evidence and her life. Judge Moreno scanned the papers, brow furrowing. Defense, why was this newly discovered evidence not disclosed earlier? The attorney faltered. We only obtained the file 2 days ago, Your Honor. From whom? A pause. Too long. Mr. Arkay's private cloud, which our forensic specialist accessed following a routine audit. Mia felt Ava shift, the faint rustle of silk. She realized what Jonathan was attempting: poison the record with just enough doubt to convert sentencing into extended appeals, and, maybe, leverage a lighter penalty. Judge Moreno turned to Prosecutor Delaney. Your rebuttal? Delaney gestured toward Mia. With the court's permission, we will call Ms. Santos for limited testimony regarding chain of custody and context of the footage. The gavel rapped once. Proceed. Mia rose. The witness box felt narrower than before, its wood edge pressing into her knees. She lifted her chin. State your name for the record. Mia Gabriela Santos. Ms. Santos, were you aware of a camera inside the blind spot room on August 14th? Delaney asked. Number by design, that room had none. Mr. Arkay told me it was undetectable. What prompted you to enter that room on the night in question? Mr. Arkay escorted me there earlier that day, revealed emergency documents and his exit plan. Later, I entered to secure evidence after he initiated a house lockdown. Delaney displayed the defense's photograph on an overhead monitor. Is this an accurate depiction of the room when you re-entered? The sprinkler lights were on. Yes, but the fire suppression system triggered only after Mr. Arkay collided with the server rack during a struggle. I did nothing to start the fire. Did you plant any recording devices? Number all cameras shown belong to Mr. Arkay's hidden network. Delaney nodded, turned. No further questions. Judge Moreno looked to the defense. Cross? Jonathan's attorney stepped forward. Ms. Santos, isn't it true you copied sensitive files without the owner's consent? I copied proof of criminal activity to prevent its deletion. Answer yes or no? Yes. And you locked Mr. Arkay in that room? Yes, to stop him destroying evidence. So you admit orchestrating the very crisis presented as his wrongdoing? Mia steadied her breath. I admit preventing further crimes in real time. The attorney's smile was thin. No further questions. Judge Moreno leaned back. Having reviewed both sets of exhibits, the court finds the defense's claim insufficient to delay sentencing. The motion is denied. The gavel struck. Mr. Arkay will return for final sentencing on Monday. A collective exhale rippled through the room, hopeful on the prosecution's side, deflated among the defense. Jonathan's smile faded. Court adjourned. Yet Mia sensed something unsettled, a current beneath the verdict. As the bailiff escorted Jonathan toward a side exit, he craned his neck, eyes locked on her. His lips formed a silent syllable, wait, before he vanished behind heavy doors. Ava appeared at Mia's elbow. That was his endgame. Sow doubt, stall, wait for leverage. Leverage like what? Mia asked, pulse still hammering. Like an off-site server we haven't found. Agent Chen joined them. We traced the defense's photo to a remote node in Malta, firewalled behind shell corporations. If Jonathan has more footage stored there, he could leak it. Mia's stomach turned. So even in prison, he can re-traumatize everyone. Ava's eyes steeled. Not if we cut the feed first. That night, the three women met in Ava's apartment, lights dimmed, laptops open. Clara joined via secure video, her once quiet face fierce with purpose. The plan formed quickly. Use Jonathan's own redundancy protocols, documented in the confiscated archives, to locate the Malta server, authenticate as system admin, and lock it down before the defense could extract more ammunition. Ava's tech team, already versed in Arkay encryption, would execute the incursion at dawn. Near midnight, Mia stood on the balcony, looking over black water. Clouds drifted past a half moon, its reflection a ragged path across the waves. Ava joined her, offering chamomile tea. "He will call this betrayal," Ava said softly. Mia shook her head. A betrayal of what? Ownership he never had. "Still," Ava warned, "this last move will break him. People like Jonathan don't survive narrative collapse. Be ready for fallout." Mia sipped the tea, warmth seeping into her fingers. "I lived in that fallout for over a year. Nothing scares me now, except doing too little." At dawn, the operation launched. Ava's team tunneled through layers of proxy servers, Zurich to Dubai to Valletta, until the final firewall shimmered into view. On Mia's laptop, lines of code danced like falling glass. She supplied the master password Jonathan had once bragged about, ORIONPERFECTIONNINENINEFIVE. Access granted. Inside were terabytes of data. Raw streams from Eve House, from other properties Mia had never seen. Some files carried women's names she recognized from the archives. Others were date-stamped only days before Jonathan's arrest. Agent Chen watched the feed with clenched jaw. "We secure it, but we don't open more than necessary," she said. "Victims decide if and when they view their images." Mia ran the purge script Ava's engineers had prepared, metadata preserved for evidence, actual footage encrypted with a key held jointly by the court and victims' counsel. When the progress bar hit 100%, Mia pressed enter. The server logged out, lights across the dashboard, turning from red to green, sealed. A breath she didn't know she'd been holding escaped her lungs. She closed the laptop. Outside, gulls cut through sunlit air, the sea bright and borderless. Her phone buzzed. A restricted number. She hesitated, then answered. A male voice, hoarse, resigned, spoke from jail collect call. "Mia, they told me you killed Orion. That true?" "Yes," she said. Silence, then a brittle laugh. "Then you've destroyed the last mirror. Enjoy the darkness." He hung up. The line died with an electronic click. Mia lowered the phone. Ava stepped beside her, concern etched in her features. "What did he say?" "That I killed his mirror." Mia's lips curved in a steady, almost peaceful smile. But he never understood. Life isn't darkness without glass. It's light you don't have to reflect. The betrayal was complete, not of trust, for there was none left, but of Jonathan's final illusion. For the first time, Mia felt the future open, like an unshuttered window, the horizon hers alone to frame. Chapter 18. The Confrontation. Shattered Genius. Morning haze hangs over the courthouse like breath on glass. Mia steps out of Ava's SUV and feels the weight of 1,000 camera lenses tilting toward her. Today is sentencing. If the prosecution prevails, Jonathan Arkay will leave this building only to disappear into a federal penitentiary, and the last pane of his empire will crack beyond repair. Inside, fluorescent lights hum. Legal clerks shuffle papers like sparrows arranging nests. At the far end of the corridor, 2 U.S. Marshals escort Jonathan from a holding cell. His wrists are cuffed. His orange jumpsuit hangs loose on shoulders that once carried an empire of steel and mirror. Yet his eyes still gleam with the stubborn shimmer of a man who has wagered everything on his own reflection. Mia holds her ground as he approaches. For a heartbeat, the world narrows to a space between footfalls and fluorescent buzz. Jonathan pauses, chain clinking. "You never understood," he murmurs, voice raw, almost pleading. "Glass shows truth." Mia meets his stare. "Only the truth you choose to see." A marshal nudges him forward. He goes, but his gaze lingers. An architect surveying salvageable ruin. The courtroom fills quickly. Journalists with notebooks poised, survivors clutching victim advocate hands, investors' attorneys ringed by PR handlers. At the prosecution table, Agent Chen lays out a tidy row of exhibits. Ava sits behind her, face unreadable, phone silenced but flashing with messages from civil suit plaintiffs around the globe. Judge Moreno enters, robe billowing. United States versus Jonathan Elias Arkay, sentencing. The gavel cracks. "Mr. Arkay, you may address the court." Jonathan stands, shackles clinking. Your Honor, I have devoted my life to erasing the walls that divide us. What some call surveillance, I call honesty. What some name exploitation, I call art. His voice quavers, then steals. I regret only that visionaries are condemned by the fearful. A ripple of disbelief runs through observers. Prosecutor Delaney rises. Your Honor, the people call me a Santos for a victim impact statement. Mia walks to the lectern. Every flashbulb freezes, even the bailiff's breath seems to pause. She sets a folded page on the wood, but speaks without reading. You claimed transparency is freedom. But freedom without consent is a cage, clearer than steel, just as strong. You designed spaces that stripped people to bone and image. You told us exposure would keep us safe, yet it served only your appetite for control. Today, I ask the court to sentence not just a man, but the idea that domination can masquerade as beauty. She draws breath, and I ask the world, listening beyond these walls, to remember, privacy is not the opposite of honesty. It is the soil where autonomy grows. Silence follows. Deep, resonant. Even Jonathan's stare falters, as though seeing her fully for the first time and finding no place to hide his certainty. Judge Moreno folds her hands. This court sentences Jonathan Elias Arkay to 35 years in federal custody, with no possibility of parole before 25, restitution to survivors as detailed in Exhibit N. Furthermore, the court orders permanent forfeiture of all surveillance and architectural assets connected to the criminal enterprise. The gavel falls. Court is adjourned. The room erupts. Gasps, tears, hushed cheers. Mia exhales, a cord uncoiling in her chest. Outside, sunlight slants across marble steps. Reporters surge, microphones bloom like metal flowers. Agent Chen shields Mia with a practiced sidestep, but Mia raises a hand. I'll speak, she says. Flashbulbs spark. In transparency's name, a man built prisons of glass. Today, transparency, true transparency, held him accountable, but justice isn't an ending, it's a doorway. Survivors will direct how restitution funds are used, education grants, trauma therapy, and an institute for ethical design named Light Beyond Glass. The story doesn't close with punishment, it opens with rebuilding. Questions volley, legal, personal, sensational, but Mia answers only those that advance her purpose. At last, Ava threads through the crowd, slips an arm around her shoulders, and steers her toward the waiting car. In the back seat, quiet settles like dusk. Ava studies her. You did it. We did, Mia corrects, then shakes her head. No, he did. He designed the walls. We only showed the cracks. Ava's phone pings, a live feed from demolition crews at the cliffside site. Glass panels come down in glittering sheets, cranes lowering them into crushers. The audio is a roar, machine against brittle perfection. Ava mutes the clip, yet the image remains, shards tumbling, catching sun like falling stars. There's an offer from the Smithsonian, Ava says. They want one intact segment for a surveillance and power exhibit. Mia watches particles glow on screen. Glass that once trapped bodies could illuminate minds. Let them have it, only if survivors curate the narrative. Ava smiles. Already in the terms. That evening the ocean is lavender under the first brush of sunset. Mia stands on a public overlook miles from the carcass of Eve House. The wind snatches strands of her hair, tangling them across a face no longer hidden by rule or lens. She retrieves a slip of paper from her pocket. The last line of Jonathan's final letter, salvaged before fire, consumed the rest. If there are walls, let them be clear. She drops it. The wind carries it over the cliff. The ocean receives it without ceremony, a scrap among waves. Behind her, a voice. Ready? Clara waits by a parked hatchback, engine idling. In the trunk are travel boxes of archival footage, now encrypted under victim control, bound for a secure vault at the new institute. Clara will drive through the night. Mia will join her for the first leg, then branch off toward a coastal retreat to finish the architecture of consent, the book already pre-sold on the strength of one leaked chapter. Mia takes one last look at the horizon. No glass between herself and sky, no designer dictating her angles. Just wind, salt, and an open road. She walks to the car, closes the passenger door, and lets the past recede like tidewater sliding off sand. Ahead lies work, hard, public, necessary, but also solitude on her own terms. And that, she realizes, is the greatest transparency of all. The right to decide when to be seen and when to remain gloriously, defiantly unseen. The engine hums. Headlights sweep across the asphalt. As they pull away, the cliff brightens with the flare of implosion charges, Eve House's final sections collapsing in a muted bloom of dust and refracted sunset. The spectacle is distant, silent inside the car, but Mia feels the tremor pass through her feet. She grips the seatbelt strap, breathing in the quiet thrill of endings that birth beginnings. The confrontation is over. The legacy, hers to shape, has just begun. Chapter 19. The Collapse. When glass breaks. Dawn lifts a pale veil over the Pacific, revealing nothing where Eve House once glittered. The cliff edge is a wounded plateau strewn with sparkling fragments, cranes poised like steel vultures to sweep away the last ribs of Jonathan Arkay's obsession. Mia stands behind a safety barrier, hard hat perched awkwardly on her dark hair as a demolition foreman shouts instructions into the wind. "Final charge in 5, he calls. Rebar moans somewhere in the rubble, the groan of a giant exhaling its final breath. Mia's boots crunch across shattered silica. Each step flashes with flecks of sunrise, amber, rose, gold. The air smells of gypsum dust and salt. She kneels, running gloved fingers over a shard so clear it still throws her reflection. No cameras lurk within it now, only memory. Agents, engineers, and victim advocate observers wait at a safe distance. Clara snaps photographs for the archives, and Ava hovers near a mobile command van, phone pressed to her ear. "Yes," Mia hears her say. "Contractors confirmed. Nothing salvageable except the one panel pledged to the Smithsonian. Everything else becomes aggregate for community rebuilding grants." Community rebuilding. The phrase feels strange, hopeful, as if the glass will return as playground sand or recycled shelter windows, reframing light for lives unscarred by Jonathan's gaze. The foreman's radio crackles. "Ignition!" A deep thud rolls through the ground. Columns collapse inward. A skeletal remnant of stairwell tilts, then folds. Dust plumes outward in a soft grey roar. The vibration hums in Mia's bones. She closes her eyes, picturing the house as it was. All angles, nakedness, enforced possibility. Then she lets it go. When silence returns, workers cheer. Agents sign clipboards. A reporter drones into a camera. Symbolic end to a case that redefined digital consent and architectural ethics. Mia walks toward Ava, who ends her call and hands over a slim envelope. Judge Moreno approved the restitution disbursement schedule. The first transfers hit survivor accounts tomorrow. Mia nods. "What about the Ethics Institute?" "Board meets next week. Your interim chair until elections." Ava's smile is small, proud. "Think of the bylaws we'll write." On a folding table nearby rests a crate lined with velvet. Inside lies the single intact panel destined for the Smithsonian exhibit, edge-lit, polished, harmless in its isolation. A curator in white gloves lifts it with reverence. He meets Mia's eye and pauses. "Would you like the first signature on the provenance record?" She hesitates, then signs. Mia G. Santos. Survivor, witness, custodian of context. The curator inclines his head. "It will be shown with your words engraved." Mia's phone buzzes. Unknown number. For one heartbeat, she fears another clandestine message from Jonathan, but the prison intake logs have been silent since sentencing. She answers. "Miss Santos, this is Dr. Maria Sanchez from Silent Harbor Clinic. We've reviewed your application. The artist-in-residence cottage is yours for 6 months. Private, ocean view, no media access unless you choose. When can we expect you?" Relief floods her limbs. 2 days, she says. After the call, she finds Clara leaning against the rubble fence, face streaked with dust and silent tears. Mia joins her. They watch gulls circle, fearless in new emptiness. Clara whispers, "Sometimes I still wake up thinking I'm late for the breakfast tray." "I wake thinking the walls are clear," Mia admits. She slips an arm around Clara's shoulders. "But memories can't watch us. Only we can." The site security horns blare, area clear. Mia removes her hard hat. Wind tangles her hair across a face that finally belongs only to her. Ava approaches with a single sheet of limestone, thin as a wafer. "Found this in the foundation." Jonathan etched a motto on it. "Through glass, truth." She flips it over. On the back, new words scratched by some worker's penknife read, "Truth doesn't need glass." Ava shrugs. "You want it?" Mia considers, then shakes her head. "Let it become gravel." They walk away together, leaving contractors to sweep the glittering dust. Behind them, the cliff stands raw and honest. No angles to distort sunrise, no lenses to trap it. 2 nights later, Mia parks a borrowed hatchback outside a weather-worn cottage perched above Silent Harbor. The porch light flickers, but holds. Inside, the living room smells of cedar and paint thinner. Blank canvases lean against one wall, a battered typewriter against another. A single curtain sways in the sea breeze from an open window. She unpacks sparingly. Laptop, notebooks, a cloth bundle of sea glass she collected from the demolition site. Each shard is different, rounded by surf, clouded by scars, yet soft to the touch. She arranges them on the windowsill, small stained glass saints of survival. At midnight, she sits at the typewriter and begins. Chapter 1. Light Beyond Glass. An essay on privacy, power, and the architecture of care. Words flow like tidewater across fresh paper. Each keystroke is a hammer breaking old panes, forging something new. She writes until dawn, blurs the sky pink. When exhaustion finally tugs her towards sleep, she leaves the manuscript half-finished on the desk, unlocked, unhidden. Nothing here demands secrecy. She curls beneath a quilt, sighing at the hush beyond the window. Wind in pine, distant surf, no motorized drones. In that quiet, she dreams. Not of walls or watchers, but of children building transparent sandcastles that glint under forgiving sun, then stomping them flat with squealing delight because tomorrow they can build again. The collapse is complete, and in the rubble, life begins to rise. Chapter 20. Legacy. Scars and Light. 6 months after the last glass panel fell, Mia wakes to the sound of children's laughter drifting up from Silent Harbor's pebbled beach. Through her cottage window, she watches a class of third-graders build sandcastles under their teacher's gentle guidance. Each structure unique, imperfect, gloriously temporary. When the tide comes in, the children shriek with delight as their creations dissolve, already planning tomorrow's designs. She brews coffee and settles at the desk where her manuscript waits, now 347 pages thick, Light Beyond Glass. An essay on privacy, power, and the architecture of care has grown beyond memoir into manifesto. Part survivor testimony, part architectural theory, part legal blueprint for protecting human dignity in transparent times. Her publisher calls daily with foreign rights offers, speaking engagements, documentary proposals. Mia accepts only those that serve survivors, declining the rest without explanation. A knock interrupts her morning ritual. Through the peephole she sees Ava, silver hair catching sunlight, arms full of newspapers and a bakery box. "Celebration breakfast," Ava announces, settling onto the porch swing. She spreads the New York Times across the wicker table. The headline reads, "Supreme Court upholds digital privacy protections in landmark Arkay decision." Mia scans the article. The court's unanimous ruling establishes that surveillance without informed consent constitutes a form of imprisonment, even in private spaces. Justice Chen's majority opinion quotes directly from Mia's victim impact statement, "Freedom without consent is a cage. Clearer than steel, just as strong." Every glass house built without explicit agreement is now legally uninhabitable, Ava explains, opening the bakery box to reveal raspberry scones. 17 countries have already adopted similar legislation. The Arkay protocols, they're calling them. Mia touches the newsprint, feeling the weight of words that once felt powerless, now reshaping law itself. Jonathan would hate that his name protects what he tried to destroy. Justice has a sense of irony, Ava agrees. Her phone buzzes. She glances at the screen and smiles. That's Dr. Reyes from the Transparency Institute. The first cohort of ethical architects graduated yesterday. 47 students trained in consent-based design. They're calling themselves light builders. Light builders. The phrase warms Mia more than coffee ever could. She pictures young architects learning to design with privacy as foundation, not obstacle, creating spaces that shelter while illuminating, that invite rather than expose. Later that morning, Mia drives to the harbor's community center, where she teaches a weekly workshop, Reclaiming Your Story. Today's participants include Clara, now studying social work, 2 women from Jonathan's earlier victims, and a teenager whose stepfather had installed hidden cameras in their home before the Arkay ruling made such surveillance a federal crime. Trauma isn't just what happened to us, Mia tells the circle. It's also what we decide to build from the pieces. She holds up a small sculpture made from sea glass, fragments from Eve House's demolition, smoothed by months of tidewater, now arranged into something that catches light without trapping it. We can't change our scars, but we can choose what they teach. The teenager raises her hand. How do you know when you're ready to tell people? Mia considers. When the story serves you instead of haunting you, when sharing it creates more safety than keeping it secret. She meets each woman's eyes, but you never owe anyone your pain. Healing happens at your pace, on your terms. After the session, Clara lingers. She's gained weight, color in her cheeks, confidence in her posture. I got into the master's program, she says shyly. Full scholarship. They want me to research labor rights in surveillance workplaces. Mia hugs her fierce and quick. You'll change everything. We already did, Clara corrects. Now we just keep building. That evening, Mia sits on the cottage porch as sunset paints the harbor gold. Her laptop displays an email from the Smithsonian curator. The Glass House exhibit opens next month, featuring the preserved panel alongside testimonies from all survivors who chose to participate. The centerpiece will be Mia's original diary, the one Jonathan read each night, never realizing she was writing not just for him, but for history. Her phone rings. Unknown number, but the area code is familiar. Federal prison system. Ms. Santos, this is Chaplain Williams from ADX Florence. I'm calling about Jonathan Arkay. He's asked to speak with you. Mia's grip tightens on the phone. Is he dying? No, ma'am. But he's been writing. Letters, essays, architectural sketches. Some show genuine remorse, recognition of harm caused. Others. The chaplain's voice grows careful. Others suggest continued obsession. He claims you're the only person who could understand his vision for redemption. Mia watches waves roll against the harbor rocks, each one wearing the stone smoother. Tell him I already understand, and I already answered. She hangs up. An hour later, her editor calls with an update. Light Beyond Glass has been selected for the National Book Award longlist. You'll need to prepare a speech, she says, just in case. If I win, Mia says, I want to share the platform. Clara gets 5 minutes, and one of the teenagers from the workshop group. This was never just my story. The weeks pass in a rhythm of writing, teaching, healing. International requests pour in. Universities, legal conferences, human rights organizations. Mia accepts those that advance survivor causes, turning down celebrity interviews and entertainment projects. She appears on 60 Minutes Only to announce the establishment of the Light Beyond Glass Foundation, funded by restitution payments, dedicated to supporting surveillance abuse survivors and promoting ethical architecture. The night before the National Book Award ceremony, Mia sits at her typewriter one final time. She rolls in fresh paper and types epilogue. What we build next. A house of glass was meant to trap me, but it became the lens through which the world learned to see clearly. Jonathan Arkay designed walls to expose others while hiding himself. Instead, his transparent cage illuminated the shadows where predators breed, in industries, institutions, homes where power masquerades as protection. The architects who study my story will build differently, not because they fear legal consequences, but because they understand that true beauty requires consent. The lawmakers who cite the Arkay protocols will write with survivors' voices echoing in their minds. The children who grow up post-Glass House will demand privacy as a birthright, not a privilege to be revoked by those who claim to love them. This is legacy, not the monument left behind, but the courage planted in others. Every survivor who speaks truth creates space for the next voice. Every law that protects, instead of exposes, makes another cage impossible. Every time someone chooses transparency over secrecy, real transparency, born of trust rather than force, Jonathan's nightmare becomes my dream. I am no longer the woman who entered that house, naked and afraid. But I am also no longer the woman who left it, armored in rage. I am someone new, scarred and strengthened, private and public, hidden and seen by choice. I am legacy in motion, not an ending, but a beginning that teaches others to build with light instead of mirrors. The glass is broken. Let us build with windows that open both ways. She pulls the page free, adds it to the manuscript stack. Complete. The next morning, she drives toward the airport for the awards ceremony, but stops at the cliff where Eve House once glittered. A small park has been built there. Playground equipment, picnic tables, a memorial plaque that reads, "Dedicated to all who survived surveillance and those who fight to ensure no cage is built in beauty's name." Children swing on jungle gyms while parents watch from benches, all of them free to be unobserved when they choose. A young girl approaches Mia, offering a handful of smooth beach stones. "They're for luck," the child says. "My mom says you helped make the laws that keep bad people from watching kids." Mia accepts the stones, each one warm from small hands, worn smooth by tidewater and time. "Thank you," she whispers. "Keep building sandcastles, okay? The best ones wash away and start fresh." The girl nods seriously and skips back to her mother, who offers Mia a grateful wave. Standing at the cliff's edge, Mia releases the stones one by one into the ocean below. Each splash echoes off the rocks. Small sounds in a vast space, but carried endlessly by wind and wave. Behind her, the playground hums with life. Ahead, the sea stretches toward horizons where other survivors are building new lives. Other advocates are changing laws. Other architects are designing with dignity as their cornerstone. The legacy is not hers alone. It belongs to everyone who chooses courage over silence, truth over performance, sanctuary over surveillance. It belongs to children who will grow up knowing privacy as a right, not a weakness. Mia walks back to her car, leaving no footprints on stone, but carrying countless new possibilities forward. The glass house is gone, but the light it accidentally let in continues to illuminate paths toward a world where transparency serves freedom, not control. She drives toward the airport, toward the ceremony, toward whatever comes next. In her rearview mirror, the memorial park grows small, but never disappears, a bright point on the horizon. Testament to the truth that what we build from broken pieces can be stronger than what came before. The scar where Eve House stood has become a garden, and that, Mia knows, is how all the best stories end, not with the breaking, but with what grows in the spaces where light finally finds room to breathe.